The thermometer on the porch read 31 degrees, and the guinea pig hutch sitting against that same sunny wall was already reading closer to 42 inside. Nobody had checked. Nobody thought there was a reason to, because the hutch itself was sitting in what looked, to a human standing beside it in the shade of the porch roof, like a perfectly reasonable spot. I am Rue. I see small pets, and heat is one of the fastest, most preventable ways a guinea pig ends up in genuine danger, often inside less than an hour, and almost always because the actual temperature the animal was experiencing was never the same number the owner believed it to be. Here is the mechanism behind why this happens so quickly and so quietly. A guinea pig cannot sweat in any meaningful way, and it does not pant efficiently the way a dog does either. Its main tools for shedding heat are limited to its ears and its behavior, seeking shade, drinking more, lying stretched flat to expose more surface area. Once the surrounding temperature climbs high enough, none of those tools are enough on their own, and its core body temperature simply keeps climbing with nowhere for the excess heat to go. That is the entire danger in one sentence. A guinea pig does not have a reliable way to cool itself once the environment gets hot enough. Prevention, not reaction, is genuinely where almost all of the real protection has to happen. There is one more piece of that mechanism worth knowing because it doubles as the single fastest way to check on a guinea pig during hot weather. The ears are where most of a guinea pig's limited heat exchange actually happens, since blood vessels there widen to release warmth when the animal is working to cool down. Ears that feel noticeably hot or look unusually red or flushed are often the earliest visible clue that something is working harder than it should be well before any other sign appears. Here is where that danger actually hides, category by category, starting with the places owners least expect it. Number 1. An outdoor hutch or enclosure sitting in direct sun for even part of the day heats up far beyond the surrounding air temperature, since a small wooden or plastic structure traps heat the same way a car does, only at a smaller scale. A spot that looks shaded in the morning can sit in full sun by early afternoon as the sun moves, so checking shade coverage across the whole day matters more than checking it once when the hutch is first placed. Number 2. An indoor room without airflow or air conditioning on a genuinely hot day is just as dangerous as an outdoor enclosure, and it is the one owners most often assume is automatically safe simply because it is indoors. A closed room with the curtains drawn against the sun can still sit well above a comfortable temperature by mid-afternoon, particularly on an upper floor. Number 3. Conservatories, garages, and sheds used as full-time or part-time housing trap heat dramatically more than a standard living space, sometimes reaching a genuinely dangerous temperature within a single sunny hour even when the outside air feels only mildly warm. These spaces are convenient for exactly the reasons that make them risky, and a guinea pig housed in one needs a clear, checked alternative ready for hot stretches specifically. Number 4. Leaving a guinea pig in a car, even briefly during a vet trip or a move, is one of the fastest routes to a genuine emergency that exists. A car interior in direct sun can climb to a dangerous temperature within minutes, far faster than most people expect, and there is no version of a quick errand that makes this an acceptable risk. Number 5. Humidity compounds heat danger in a way the temperature number alone does not capture. A warm, humid day is genuinely more dangerous than a hotter but drier one, because humidity interferes with what little evaporative cooling a guinea pig can manage through its ears and its breathing. Checking humidity alongside temperature, not temperature alone, gives a far more honest picture of the actual risk that day. Number 6. A water bottle sitting in direct sun warms up fast enough to become genuinely unappealing, which means a guinea pig may simply stop drinking at the exact moment it needs water most. Keeping the water source itself in shade, and checking that it is still cool to the touch partway through a hot day, matters just as much as making sure water is available at all. Number 7. Overcrowding a cage on a hot day raises the ambient temperature inside it simply from the combined body heat of several animals in a small space. A cage sized correctly for cooler weather can become genuinely too warm for the same number of guinea pigs once summer temperatures arrive, and a larger or better ventilated temporary setup is worth having ready for the hottest stretches specifically. Number 8. Thick bedding and heavy fleece layers left unchanged from winter retain heat in exactly the way you would expect, and most owners simply never think to adjust bedding depth or material with the season. A lighter, more breathable bedding layer during hot weather, with more of the cage floor left open rather than fully covered, helps heat actually escape rather than building up underneath the animal. Number 9. Long-haired breeds carry a meaningfully higher heat risk than short-haired guinea pigs simply because of the extra insulation their coat provides. Keeping a long-haired guinea pig's coat properly trimmed and free of mats through the warmer months is not just a grooming preference during summer specifically. It is a genuine part of managing its heat risk. Number 10. Older guinea pigs and overweight guinea pigs both run a meaningfully higher risk in hot weather, since age and excess weight both reduce how efficiently an animal can manage its own body temperature. Extra shade, extra ventilation, and extra attention during any hot stretch matters more for these animals specifically than it does for a young lean guinea pig in the exact same enclosure. Number 11. A transport carrier left sitting in a warm car or in direct sun for even a few minutes during a vet trip creates real risk precisely because it is such a small enclosed space. Keeping the carrier in shade in an air-conditioned car with the animal never left unattended and covering it loosely rather than fully sealing off airflow matters on every single trip during warm weather. Number 12. A fan pointed directly at a cage sounds like an obvious fix and is actually a common misstep. Direct airflow on one side of an enclosure can create an uneven, oddly cold zone right next to an uncomfortably warm one, rather than genuinely cooling the whole space. A fan aimed to circulate air generally through the room, not blasting directly onto the cage itself, is the safer version of the same idea. Number 13. Ice or frozen bottles placed in direct contact against a guinea pig's fur, rather than simply nearby in the enclosure for the animal to lie beside if it chooses, can cause its own discomfort. A frozen water bottle wrapped in a cloth and placed in one corner of the cage, left for the guinea pig to approach or avoid on its own terms, is the safer version most experienced keepers actually use. Number 14. Owners consistently misjudge how hot a stationary fur-covered animal actually feels compared to a person standing and moving through the same room in light clothing. What feels like a perfectly comfortable afternoon to you, dressed for the weather and moving around, can be genuinely hot for a guinea pig sitting still in a full coat in the same room. Checking an actual thermometer near the cage, rather than trusting how the room feels to you, removes this blind spot entirely. Number 15. Scheduling floor time or exercise sessions during the hottest part of the day adds unnecessary heat exposure on top of everything else. Moving any active time to early morning or evening during a genuine heat stretch, when the temperature has actually dropped, is a simple adjustment that costs nothing and meaningfully lowers the daily risk. Number 16. Concrete, paving, and stone surfaces near an outdoor enclosure store heat and keep releasing it well after direct sun has actually left the area. A spot that reads as shaded and cooling by early evening can still be radiating stored warmth upward from the ground underneath it for hours afterward. Checking the actual surface and the air just above it, not only whether the sun itself has moved on, gives a more honest read on evening conditions. Number 17. A run of consecutive hot days is more dangerous than a single hot day taken on its own, particularly when overnight temperatures stay warm enough that a cage or hutch never really gets the chance to cool down between one afternoon and the next. An animal that spent yesterday managing genuine heat stress has less reserve left for today, so checking overnight lows during a heat wave matters just as much as checking the daytime peak. Number 18. Covering a cage with a blanket or sheet at night is a common winter habit for reducing drafts. It is easy to simply leave that same setup in place once the weather turns warm, without thinking to reconsider it. A full cover trapped over a cage on a warm night blocks airflow at exactly the time ventilation matters most. Switching to a lighter, breathable cover, or removing it altogether, is worth doing deliberately once the season changes rather than by accident. Number 19. A guinea pig with damp fur, whether from a recent bath or from a spilled water bottle, struggles more in heat than a fully dry one. Damp fur trapped against the skin interferes with what little cooling ability the animal has rather than helping it. Making sure fur is properly dry before returning a guinea pig to its enclosure removes an easily missed extra layer of risk. So does checking that bedding around the water bottle has not left a permanently damp patch. Number 20. A guinea pig that has only just arrived in a new home carries a higher heat risk than one already well established. The stress of a recent move already places real demand on the same system's heat stress effects. Being especially attentive to shade, water, and ventilation during a settling-in period that happens to land during warm weather is worth the extra care. This is on top of everything already covered in an earlier video on this channel about those first uncertain days. Number 21. Not knowing the early signs of heat stress means the window to act shrinks dramatically before anyone notices something is wrong. Early signs include lying flat and stretched out more than usual. Breathing that looks faster or more labored than normal is another. So are noticeably red or hot feeling ears, drooling, and a general lethargy that looks different from a guinea pig's usual relaxed resting posture. Any of these signs during hot weather means moving the animal to a cooler, shaded, well-ventilated spot immediately. Contact a vet the same day. Treat it as a genuine emergency rather than something to simply monitor overnight. Here is what you can actually do today, whether or not the weather is hot right now. Walk to wherever the cage or hutch sits at the warmest point of the afternoon, not the morning, and check the actual temperature with a simple thermometer rather than trusting how the spot feels standing beside it briefly. Confirm there is genuine shade across the entire day from sunrise through to early evening, not just at the one time you happen to check, since the sun moves steadily and a shaded morning spot is genuinely not the same thing as a shaded afternoon one. Check that the water source stays properly cool and easily reachable, and consider adding a second water point during any confirmed hot stretch so a guinea pig never has to travel very far at all for it. If the current housing is a conservatory, garage, shed, or any other space that traps heat, have a genuinely cooler backup location identified and ready before the first real heat wave arrives, rather than scrambling for one on the day it is actually needed. Place the thermometer inside the cage itself, near where the guinea pig actually spends most of its time, rather than simply somewhere in the room. A room can read as comfortable on a wall-mounted thermometer, while the cage floor beneath a window runs several degrees warmer, and the animal only ever experiences the second number. During any confirmed heat wave, check that cage temperature at least twice a day, once around midday, and once again in the mid to late afternoon, since the hottest point often arrives later than people expect. Keep 2 or 3 frozen water bottles rotating in the freezer, so a fresh one wrapped in cloth is always ready to swap in as the previous one warms. If blinds or curtains are an option near the cage, a light-colored or reflective covering during the hottest hours blocks more heat than a dark one, which tends to absorb warmth rather than reflect it back outside. I do want to mention something briefly, the way I would across my own exam table. I've put together a simple hot weather checklist, covering everything above in order, along with the specific early warning signs worth memorizing before summer arrives rather than during it. It is linked below if that would help your own setup. None of this is meant to suggest guinea pigs cannot be kept safely through warm weather, because they absolutely can be, with the right preparation in place well before the first genuinely hot day arrives. Almost everything on this list is a one-time check or a simple seasonal adjustment, not an ongoing burden. A family I see brought in a guinea pig one summer afternoon who had gone from completely normal to lying flat and breathing hard in under an hour. The hutch, it turned out, had been moved the week before to what looked like a shadier spot near a different wall. Nobody had checked it again once the afternoon sun came around to that side of the garden. He recovered, but it was close enough that they now check that exact spot with an actual thermometer every single hot day without fail. They told me afterward they had genuinely never once thought to question a spot that had already proven itself shaded for most of the year before that particular afternoon. That is really the pattern behind almost every heat-related emergency I see. It is very rarely a single, obviously bad decision made carelessly. It is a spot that used to be genuinely fine, quietly becoming dangerous as the season, the sun angle, or the weather itself gradually shifted, without anyone ever thinking to check it again once it had already passed its first inspection. None of this replaces your own vet, particularly the moment any of the warning signs covered earlier actually appear, however mild or brief they might seem in the moment. What 5 minutes with a thermometer gives you instead is the genuine chance to prevent that emergency from ever happening at all, rather than simply reacting well once it already has. So if your guinea pig is housed anywhere near a window, a wall, or an outdoor spot that gets any direct sun at all, check it today at the warmest point of the afternoon with an actual thermometer rather than your own sense of the room. It takes 5 minutes, and it is very often the only thing standing between a completely normal, unremarkable afternoon and a genuine emergency that could otherwise have been prevented entirely with almost no effort at all.